You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you realize she's everything. She's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you'll never know what she'll do next.
Oh my gosh, I'm so glad you're back. This is so amazing this week. Do you know I brought someone who has kind of a like mind with me because he's a real estate investor. And I don't know if you know here, but I also do real estate. I help people buy, sell, invest. And so we connected. Do you remember where we connected, Dan? This is Dan Ahlborn is his name.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually met at the Speakerpreneur event. We were both kind of talking and getting into that space. And we just found we had common interest in real estate and said, hey, let's jump on a podcast. And hey, here we are, Tracy.
And then I heard that he was a radio announcer, and I can hear it in his voice. Can you hear it in his voice? Yeah. I hear it. Anyway, so tell me a little bit about what it is that you do as far as investing goes. What do you invest in?
Yeah, so I'm a real estate wholesaler, which I know in this industry gets a very bad rap, but I've been doing that for about 16 years.
Why does it get a bad rap, would you say?
Because there's people that don't do it correctly, Tracy. And I think a lot of times what happens is the wholesaler does not explain all the disclosures. As us, we are not really the end buyer, right? We are working to market the property to find someone else to help buy it with us. Now, can I buy a property? Yes. In fact, I'm buying one on next Friday. So yes, I do buy real estate, but a lot of new people kind of circumvent that and they make it believe like they're going to be the end buyer. And then more importantly, they don't close, right? So you need to disclose all this stuff with the seller.
What do you mean? Why wouldn't they close?
Well, because they get them under contract because that's the power, right?
Right.
And they can't, either they bought it at too high of a price, and they can't find.
They had second thoughts.
Well, more so for the investor, right? The investor thinks they have a good deal, but they bought it at the wrong price. You always make your money in investing when you buy, right?
Right.
So if you get the right number, it usually works to your favor. But what happens, a lot of these guys don't buy it right. They can't have an end buyer, and then they have to come with egg on their face and say, hey, Mr. Seller, remember I told you I was going to buy it? Can't do that. And that's where we get a bad rap.
Okay. Now, do you usually finance when you buy, or do you usually pay cash?
We're cash buyers. So we have used conventional financing from time to time. Most of the people we work with our partners, they are cash buyers. A lot of the properties we're buying just are not financeable, specifically with FHA and all the guidelines that come with that, with seasoning and or just the expectations that the government-backed programs have. Conventional or cash is king, right?
Right, of course. Okay, so that's interesting. Now, what kind of properties do you buy? Do you do multifamily properties at all? I was just working with a man yesterday about a multifamily property.
Yeah, we look at multis, primarily single-family residences. We probably get into the 2 to 4-plex is really a lot of duplexes. Now, I actually work in Wisconsin. That's where my business, we could talk about that on this, but a lot of upper-lower duplexes, that's a huge thing. Wisconsin, they built a lot of these homes back in the 40s and 50s that were like 3,000 square foot. And as things transgressed throughout the years, they felt like, let's split it to multifamily. So they turned a lot of these big old Victorian homes into multi-level homes. So there's a lot of duplexes, upper lowers in Wisconsin.
I don't remember. Did we talk about where we met, or was that in the first?
No,
we didn't go live.
No, we didn't.
I can't remember. Was that a practice shoot we did, or how did we meet again?
We met at the Speakerpreneur event a few months back.
I just want to make sure we cover everything.
No,
here. Everybody knows that's how we met. Yeah, you're a speaker.
No, I thought we just met in the parking lot, didn't we? You're like, you want to jump on a podcast?
No, this has been in the plan, on the schedule.
I know, just messing with you.
Anyway, so I know you also do you teach at all?
Yeah,
okay, so you teach about self-image, right?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I've always had a heart of teaching. I used to do sales forever. And when I got out of that, I thought, how can I have the thrill of closing a deal? And when I taught someone how to do it, I felt like, wow, this is so empowering. And I loved it even more. So I've been teaching real estate for almost 8 years, but recently I've realigned I'm teaching real estate and mindset. Because for the first, honestly, 12 years of my real estate investing career, Tracy, I failed. I was not great at it.
Well, that's the best teacher.
It is the best teacher.
The guy that wins all the time doesn't be able to teach you anything, right?
And sometimes they don't talk about the failures, right? But yeah, so I failed forward, but I had a real breakthrough in my life that I realized I had some limiting beliefs that was holding me back. And those limiting beliefs, once I understood what they were, and through the grace of God gave me clarity and vision, I was able to break through those and really explode my business in a matter of 8 months.
Wow, that's amazing. Okay, so how would you say self-image determines your wealth and success?
Well, I think it comes down to our identity. A lot of us have, whether it be our past experiences, whether it be just something we've went through in our life, right? And we have these pre-existing thoughts or limiting beliefs of who we are. For me, it was, my family was not rich. We didn't have money. No one in my family was rich, right? I was overweight. I had imposter syndrome because I saw these other people doing deals. Even though they were doing it at a higher value. I would get so close to like scaling my business and I would quit because I didn't have the mindset, right? Once I realized those were limiting beliefs, and then I rewrote those statements to say, I am a successful real estate investor. I am good with money. I am a healthy man. That really transformed me. I went to a Tony Robbins event, which helped me in addition to that as well. I just saw
Tony Robbins a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, absolutely. An unbelievable event. So I went through that, transformed that, and really empowered me to do imperfect action. All the things I would be stopped at before, I pushed through the kind of the sucky part of that. And that's where my business blew up.
Now, something we talked about a little bit before here is your story.
Yeah.
And he started telling, I got this story of adversity because, that's what I always like to talk about.
Yeah.
Where have you been through adversity? I know you made it now, but what have you gone through?
Yeah.
So I said, well, choose a real estate story. That's what we're talking about today.
For sure.
So what kind of adversity have you been through in real estate that you had, because you were just talking about, you had some challenges to get through to make it to where you are now. And so can you share that with us?
How much time do you have on that?
Not long.
Okay, I'll give you the abridged version. So the biggest,
Cliff notes.
The Cliff notes. Here's the biggest adversity I had. As I mentioned to you before, I've been in this for 16 years now. The first 12 years I failed forward. And the big tipping point for me was this. I was a real estate investor. A lot of times we would market to people that were going through foreclosure and distressed people. Well, there came a point in time I got a letter in the mail saying, hey, Dan, we're going to foreclose on your house. I had
so here you were buying foreclosures and then you got a letter you were being foreclosed on.
I was living paycheck to paycheck. Wow. It was tough, right? I had an investor friend of mine saying, Dan, you okay? And I'm like, oh, I'm fine. If it was not for a good friend of mine who actually helped me in that situation financially to get out of that hole, I don't know where I'd be. But I at that point in time, Tracy, I said to myself, I'm never going to have that happen again.
Right.
And so then I started taking the business serious. And even then I was kind of still figuring it out. Fast forward, I had some partners of mine, good friends of mine. We got into business, February of 2020. And we started this new entity. And we all know what happened March of 2020, right? The world shut down. So we're like, what are we going to do? We said, let's forge forward. Now, thankfully, the real estate market through the whole debacle that was COVID was successful. In Wisconsin, where we were doing business, was fairly open for business. So we were able to be very successful in 3 years. Then they came back from a workshop or a mastermind, and they said, Dan, we love working with you, but we don't want to be in this business anymore. And my world was just shattered. Because that was my bread and butter. Yeah. They were doing some private money lending. They were in commercial finance, commercial real estate. And I'm like, I had to make this work. So I really ripped off the Band-Aid. And that's when I had those breakthroughs. I had to make it happen because the whole thing with the foreclosure, I was not going back there. That was for sure. So it almost forced me to step out of my own comfort zone. And literally the Tony Robbins thing, I call it an act of God, honestly. It was at the perfect time, at the perfect season, this all happened. And then from there, it was imperfect action. Because it's not, we hear all these stories, Tracy. You get people on these podcasts or social media saying, hey, I made all this money. They don't talk about all the struggles. Every day is a struggle. Every day is a challenge. And the reality is, if your business is bigger, you're going to have just bigger problems.
Right.
So you have to push through the adversity, continue to grow through that. And that's how you continue to grow your business. And that's kind of a little of my story.
And would you say that was your identity breakthrough framework?
Oh, 100%.
That you're talking about?
Absolutely. It's the framework, because what you have to do is you have to understand where you're currently at, where you want to be, what are those limiting thoughts, and then you need to rewrite them in your brain to say, listen, who am I really? Now, the other thing that I really base this in, I'm a heavy man of faith, is looking to God's word. More importantly, who does God say I am at the end of the day, right? That's where it becomes concrete. Now, you have some surface level stuff that you can kind of get, I am this, that, and the other. But when you reflect that back on how God sees you, and I'm a big proponent of that, that's what really brings the cement in. And you can use that to be your strength to overcome just about anything.
I totally agree. Mm-hmm. Okay. So then you can tie it to business, faith, relationships.
Yeah. And then I use real estate as the vehicle to help people be successful, right? Because they're wanting to get over the hump. They can't do that. But if you don't get your mind right, I read a statistic recently, 83% of real estate investors who get into it never do a deal. It's because they have those limiting beliefs. So I'm trying to give them a leg up on that because I can give them all the tools. I basically open up my business and say, hey, do what I do. I've been able to move my business, my whole family down to Florida, and I still run a very successful business in Wisconsin.
Now, tell me, are you one of those guys that knows how to creative finance, that uses creative financing to do your deals?
We do, and that has obviously...
I want to hear about that.
Well, yeah, I mean, so
I want you to talk about that.
For sure.
That's what a lot of my viewers want to hear about.
Yeah, I mean, the reality of this, everyone wants, like, how do you do creative financing? And here's what I say. What's the situation? Because in order to get creative, you have to know what the problem is with that individual, the seller, right? There is
right. You first have to find out what their problem is.
Correct.
Then you can relate to them, right?
Absolutely. There's that. But what I'm saying is to get creative, it's exactly that. It's not a one-trick pony. Like when I buy for cash, it's kind of a one-exit strategy, right? But maybe you need to do something creative where you're going to take their mortgage subject to, or maybe you're going to do a lease option, or maybe you're going to do something where they can stay in the property for a while. I just had a situation recently where I got somewhat creative. We were going to try to wholesale it, couldn't find a buyer. I'm actually ending up buying it because I want to be a man of my word, right? So we're going to buy the property. I'm going to stick a little bit of money into it, put it on the MLS, and, we'll probably do okay with it. But I wanted to help the seller at the end of the day. We had to get creative. I did a post-occupancy with him, held back some money to make sure he cleans it out. But it's just a good dude in an unfortunate situation, and we're helping him through that. So it's finding out what the problem is. What is the outcome you're trying to achieve, Mr. and Mrs. Seller? How can I help you do that? And sometimes I'm not the guy. I'd be like, you know what? You need to list your property. Talk to Tracy. That's what I would do in those situations. So it's always finding out what's best for the seller.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, so then also, like, what would you advise people on when they're just looking for properties? What should they look for?
Yeah, I mean, from like an investor standpoint.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think really what you're going to want to find is people that are probably in some type of adverse situation. There's a lot of ways of finding that. You can go through public.
Maybe
record.
It's been online for sale for a long time. Is that?
Yeah, I mean, you can look at days on market. I mean, here in Southwest Florida, I mean, it's
motivated seller.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys. I mean, it's an interesting market down here because you have a lot of people that don't live down here that own real estate, right? So typically if someone's had it on market for a while, I'm really good at looking at off-market stuff. So I don't even look at MLS. I feel it's a different world. I'm not saying you can't find deals. There's a lot of guys that buy off there every day. That's just not my strategy. I go into public records. I do the marketing. I do the mailing. Truth be told, Tracy, even though I'm a real estate investor, the first thing I'm a marketer.
Right.
So we do mailings, callings, social media, stuff like that. People come to us saying, hey, Dan, the traditional sale is just not going to work. I love Tracy. I just don't want to list it, right? So then they're going to come to us to kind of find a way that we can work together and help them out of their situation.
Well, I believe everything in life is marketing.
Yeah.
No matter what you do. The pastor of the church, James back there behind the computer, our tech guy, everything is marketing. Your real estate is marketing. My real estate is marketing. Podcasting, we're marketing right now. We're marketing. We're marketing ourselves, if nothing else.
Yeah,
so
sure.
I think that's the way to look at life is everybody's marketing something, right?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, so when you're looking at these different things in the public record, what do you look for in the public record to see what would be attractive to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you can look at foreclosure records, obviously someone going through some form of distress. Foreclosures, evictions, like a landlord that evicted a tenant, probably is a problem tenant, probably the property is destroyed. They may not want to deal with it anymore.
So you can see that from the public record?
Absolutely. A lot of stuff is public record. So you just have, each state's a little bit different. Wisconsin, I'm very familiar with it. I know Florida has public records as well. Most states, it is public knowledge. It's Freedom of Information Act. They have to put that out there, right? So it's free, which is great. We all like free stuff, right? It just takes the time, and there's tools you can use. There's even AI things you can do to scrape that information. Now you have a list. And now you can market to those people. You can send them letters. You can phone call. If you want a door knock, there's a lot of different ways you can get in front of these people to say, hey, listen, I notice you have a property at 123 Main Street. Would you consider selling? And that's the simple conversation.
Okay. And how did you start working with foreclosures in Florida?
Well, right now we're not doing anything specifically in foreclosure. I'm looking at it. We're evaluating it. Florida's a unique state because the probate laws here in Florida I've never seen anything like it. There's just a lot of things and people that get involved in probate, where in Wisconsin, it's usually the next heir, the next of kin. Now in Florida, it's like if you have a family tree and you've been associated with anyone, you have a legal right to that property, which is kind of unique to the state. So it's just more things you need to work with. You definitely need an attorney if you're going to be working probate leads. But foreclosures, I mean, it's all public records. The foreclosure market is not, that was back in 2008, Tracy. I know you've been doing this for a while. That was the big scare. Like, where are all the foreclosures? We're not to that point in the market today that's going to be necessarily reoccurring, but they're out there and they're not as abundant as they once were. But there are people that have adverse situations in life, And if we can be a solution, we can work with them, work with their lender, maybe do a short sale, stuff like that.
Now, what about working with this type of investing became your passion? How did you become passionate about this?
The reality is that a realtor is a phenomenal resource. Obviously, you're very successful. You guys serve a great need. Sometimes the traditional sale is just not ideal for people. So an investor can come in, we can give them a lot of liberty. We don't need to move in right away, right? We can give them some time. Sometimes they need to move so fast that even a realtor doesn't work, or they may be embarrassed because, truth be told, Tracy, you need to have a property looking right. You need to stage it. You're going to come in there and say, well, move this picture, take this piece of furniture. You're a great agent. So you're going to advise your client of how can I maximize you to get the most amount of money for your property. Some people just don't want to deal with it. Some people inherited mom's home as a hoarder. They don't have the money to clean it out.
But nothing's the same for everybody.
Right, exactly. So there's a space which is very niche that I service that helps these people that are like, I'm just done with it. What can I get for it? And I try to make them a fair offer that allows me to pay the bills. I have a small team that keeps things going. And more importantly, it serves them at the end of the day. And the number of people I've had at the closing table, Tracy, that are just in tears and so thankful, that's the most rewarding part of this. And that's what drives me to help that type of person.
Okay. So what kind of insights or advice can you offer to our viewers?
Well, there's options. I guess the biggest thing I'd say is depending on your situation, if you're wanting, retail, obviously you have amazing realtors like Tracy and things like that can help you. If you're looking to go non-traditional, get creative, there's also realtors that know that space too. There's a lot of realtor friends of mine that invest like I do. But some people, you have to know who's who in the space. But if you don't want to deal with that, there are other options, which I call the non-traditional options like us, that can get creative. Like we can do different things to help you in your situation. It's just really understanding the outcome. And that's what it is. I'm never putting the square peg in the round hole. It's just like, let's have a discussion. And if at the end of the day, we can serve you, awesome. If not, you know what? We can at least give you the options of what you can do.
Right. Okay. So now what type of catalyst were you talking about? About rebuilding a business or something like that? We were talking about it earlier.
Yeah, well, like how I rebuilt my business specifically, or what I guess we're referring to. Just like I'm trying to think here. The reality is comes back to your why. If you have a catalyst, that's really going to be your driver in anything that you do. So if you're dealing with any type of perplexity or struggle or whatever, and I keep saying the word outcome, but that's really what you have to look at. What are you trying to achieve? And sometimes what happens, Tracy, is we become so narrow focused and what we think is the outcome. And we don't get creative enough to think there are other options. Right. So if it's even in your business, recently this deal I had, I didn't think there was any other options. And I thought creatively, well, how can I structure this?
I love the creative finance.
Yeah.
I love that.
How can I structure this that the seller wins?
Right.
And also I can help them. And that's where I get really, we had a situation literally, I guess it was probably 4 or 5 months ago where we were under the gun. There was 2 liens. The second lien holder didn't want to release the lien. I worked my butt off to close that thing, and that woman was so happy. But we had to get creative. I literally was calling that lender saying, listen, when are you going to release this lien? It was, don't have time to go through the story, but it was a $40,000 lien that ballooned to $118,000 because there was no payments for 8 years.
Wow.
And they never foreclosed on her. And that was not even like proper business practice for the lender. They were actually doing harm. Like they should have foreclosed. And in most states, there is like a law that they should have foreclosed, but they chose not to. So we worked through all of that, got the woman out of her situation. We were able to help her, and she was more happy for that. So
wow. You've just shared some incredible things. Thank you so much for being here today.
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, I want to also get to the real estate minute, but if you're still watching, I want you to hit that subscribe button. Please subscribe to this channel because there's going to be more information like this that you're going to want to see about how people have beaten their adversity and reached success or are helping others to reach success. And please like the video, hit that like button. Post your comments below. Maybe we can get a hold of this man one more time and get some more answers for you. And also share it with someone else who's interested in this type of interesting stuff about how they can beat adversity or how they can be successful at real estate, whether they're a realtor, an investor, or buyer, seller, whatever. Now, James, do you have any questions?
Maybe.
Yeah.
Do you want to think about it longer? I got to do a real estate minute too.
No, I was just going to say, actually, my message for Sunday is I am who Christ says I am. That's my message for Sunday.
Absolutely.
So
remember, James is a pastor at my church. He's the lead pastor at Celebration Beach Church here in Canberra Park in Naples, Florida.
So you
9:30 a.m. If you get there at 9 o'clock, you can get a coffee and a donut.
So get early.
That's my selling point.
or a banana if you're not into.
And you can bring your dog.
Yeah,
You can bring your dog. It's outside in the park.
Either or. But no, I was just going to ask you.
Yeah.
A lot of people and business owners and entrepreneurs aren't faith forward when they're doing their business. How has being faith forward been beneficial to you and satisfying and spiritually enriching to you?
Great question. It's who I am. I owe everything I have to Jesus. I mean, he paid the ultimate price. And it would be a disservice to not have that as a badge of honor in my life. Share if you follow me on socials. I'm not abashed to talk about who Christ
Dan is out there, especially on Instagram.
Absolutely.
And I didn't even notice how wonderful his voice is until today. But his radio voice is really amazing.
You get to see it in person. But yeah, I think the big thing, Pastor James, is like, it's one of those things that it's just so important to me that I feel everyone needs to know, because the peace that passes all understanding that I have in my life and helps me through all the adversity, because, you know, we all talk about the great stuff, but that's when I need Jesus the most, right? In those tough times, that I can lean on that. And if I can be a bright light or an encouragement to share my faith and just be out there, and someone wants to reach out to me, even not in real estate, and they just have a spiritual thing, that I can be a blessing to them, that means more to me than closing a deal. Because that's really the ultimate win, is that someone gets to know Jesus. So I think doing that has not been anything but positive for me in my business. And I just try to be authentic, and I try to be real. And if I can't be that, then I'm not going to do it. So that's kind of the core of who I'm not one to bang someone over the head with Jesus. I just try to just show him. And my life verse is, let your light so shine before men, that they may see his good works and glorify him, which is in heaven. And that's how I live my life.
James, thank you for adding that. That was amazing. Okay, can we do the real estate minute now?
Let's go.
Okay, so this man, Dan Ahlborn, is going to share his point of view from what he's working on, his real estate minute with you today.
I think it's interesting. I think of recent, there's been some shifts with world events and things like that. There's been there's still a soft market from necessarily a buyer side. It's a heavy buyer's market, but even though with all the changes with interest rates and things like that, we're expecting more basis points cuts, ideally maybe 2 more before the end of the year. That should be a positive thing to maybe drive more consumer interest, but we're still seeing inventory continues to rise. Sellers are definitely more finicky. They're wanting more things. They're asking more stuff, right? They're going to want to have more concessions. They're going to want to have things paid for, closing costs. So if, depending on what side of the frame you're on, you have to kind of know how you're positioning things. And if you're a seller, you got to price it aggressively. The days of asking for the most, and you know this, Tracy, you got to price competitively, if anything, underpriced. What a lot of guys
look at the market, see what the market's doing. And if you price it just below, you can never underprice a property, because there's always going to be people that come in and bid over you and wonder what's up. Why are you letting it go for so cheap? And then you end up selling it for more than you're asking. I keep seeing it. So I'm just trying to get out there. I want to get that.
Well, and I'll say that to your credit. If you're a seller and you're working with someone, Tracy, and she gives you a price that you're like, no, I want more. There's a reason she's positioning it that way, because she knows she's probably going to get the interest, and there may be a chance, just maybe a chance, you get into a bidding war. All you need is 2. You get 2 offers. She then can ask highest and best, and you're going to get maximized offer. And that's her fiduciary responsibility to serve you as a client, right? So trust a professional like Tracy when they advise you. Do the things she says, because she's successful at what she does. Don't take it as to get butthurt about it. Just know she's trying to position you and help you to be the best.
Well, I just want to help you. And the thing is, the worst thing you can do is overprice your house, and then no one wants to see it.
Right.
And then you don't have anybody come and seeing it, so you lower the price, and then everybody's like, what's wrong with it?
Well, and I'd say this is that consumers are probably 6 months to a year behind what you know and I know is in the market, right? So they're still thinking like the market's gangbusters. I can just put a price out there. People are going to be flocking to it. You and I know, specifically in Southwest Florida, that's not the case.
People are still coming here. There's plenty of reasons.
Agreed.
For everybody to want to live in Florida.
Florida is not closed for business. People always want to move here. But you just need to be smart with your listing. And that's why having a professional that knows the market, who's been a seasoned, grizzled person in this space, can help you position.
It's a great time to sell.
Yeah.
It's a great time to sell, because there's a lot of buyers out there, because it's a buyer's market right now.
Yeah, for sure. 100%.
And the interest rates are coming down. So the idea is to catch it when the interest rates are coming down, but the prices of the houses don't go up so much, because it's a buyer's market.
Yeah.
And so that's what we're dealing with here. But anyway, James, do you have anything else to offer?
I don't.
Do you have anything else to offer?
No, I appreciate the opportunity.
I
I love being on the show. And yeah, I mean, if you want to follow me on socials, it's Dan Ahlborn. The name's there on Instagram. You got my website. You can check me out there. That's my business. I'm also on Facebook.
I'm going to have his contact information down below in the bio. Too.
Connect with me if you want to learn more or whatever. I do some teaching, education. I have a free Facebook group if you want to join just to learn more about real estate investing. Just message me directly and I'll get you in there.
And like this podcast, if you want to see more of it, so we can know that you appreciated it, and we can bring you more of this kind of information. Awesome. All right, we're sending you lots of love, you guys. Have a great week. Thank you so much for making the trip over here today.
No worries.
And thank you, James, behind the camera. You are amazing, as always. Sending you lots of love, you guys. Bye-bye.
You think she's a good girl, but once you get to know her, you realize she's everything. She's crazy, she's funny, she's honest, and you'll never know what she'll do next.